Welcome to the Create a Life That Is Beautiful podcast, your go-to resource for personal development and coaching. I'm your host, Leticia Ringe, and I'm so glad you're here. Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. I'm Leticia Ringe, your coach and host, and I hope you've all had an amazing start to your week. In today's episode, we'll be diving into growth and transformation secrets for women in business and women who work in the coaching and personal development industry. This episode is so important for all of you as you grow your businesses, as you grow your careers, as you support people in any kind of coaching and personal development capacity, because when you're in business, as well as just simply being a human, and also, of course, when you're holding space and supporting people as they move through a growth or transformation process, you need to have the best relationship you can with growth and transformation. So I've spent my career over the past 8 years deep diving into growth and transformation, understanding it holistically, what is needed in order to have a positive relationship with growth and transformation so that we don't make it harder than it already is. How do we work with the 3 systems, our body, mind, and intuition throughout growth and transformation so that we're working with ourselves as humans rather than against ourselves, and again, making everything harder? And how do we make sure we have a positive reference point with growth and transformation so that unconsciously we're not avoiding growth and transformation in our businesses or in our lives, and also so that we're not creating a negative relationship with growth and transformation that then impacts our relationship with our clients and the way we show up for them. For instance, if we are scared of growth and transformation and see it as a really negative thing that's really hard, when our clients are experiencing struggles, we're likely to get drained by those struggles instead of seeing them for what they are, which are markers of success and progress along their journey. Truly, our clients, when they are not experiencing any challenges, it's usually because they're not growing, and it's the same for us. So we need to be able to see the challenges along the growth and transformation journey as something positive, as something neutral, as something that just shows us we're on the right track. And when we see it in that way, truly, unconsciously and consciously, that's when we will lean into growth and transformation. And that's when we'll stop resisting, avoiding it, and also making it harder, adding suffering on top of what is already a difficult process, but so necessary. And we will be pushed into whether we are intentionally deciding, hey, we're going to enter into a growth period or not. Because the truth is, as humans, we live in a growing, expanding place, which means we will always be growing and expanding anyway. So you either want to learn how to do it in a way that works with the way it all works, or you keep struggling throughout that system. So that's what today's episode's all about. Now, before I dive into today's episode, I want to remind you that I am currently enrolling into my 2025 hybrid one-to-one business coaching and mastermind program. This is for you if you're a woman in business or a woman who works in the coaching and personal development industry. We'll be working together throughout the rest of 2025, starting on the 14th of July. You will get one-to-one coaching support for 5 months, as well as a monthly business mastermind. This is such an incredible offer because usually you either need to pick between one-to-one coaching or a business mastermind. But in my newest business offering, which is replacing all my other business offerings to date, which is called World Class, you get one-to-one and a mastermind. You'll have 2 one-to-one coaching sessions a month and 1 mastermind session a month. We'll be working together to support you as you grow your business to whatever that next layer and level is for you. We'll be supporting you to continue deepening into your world-class potential as a leader within your niche and your industry. We'll be taking a holistic approach to your business journey, which means we'll be supporting you with your body, mind, and intuition, as well as all the practical components of running, leading, and growing a business. You'll be supported to take your craft to its next level in terms of your professional development. You'll be supported strategically to grow your business, or if you're in a maintenance season of your business, to maintain your business. You'll be supported to look at your life as a whole and make sure you're really working in a way that allows you to thrive across your life as well as within yourself as a person. And we'll also be taking a feminine approach to the way you grow your business and do your life. This means we work with your body as a woman, your menstrual cycle, if you're experiencing a menstrual cycle, or if you're in the perimenopause phase of your life or the menopause phase of your life or pregnancy or postpartum, we will work with where your body is today. We will also work with both your masculine and feminine energy, which is your full creative energy. We take more of a yin approach to the way we approach the business journey, meaning we go just to your edge, not beyond it, because that's where you burn out. We go just to your edge and we relax into the next phase of whatever your growth is. We take a long-term perspective when it comes to your growth. This is just one season of a long journey. It's the journey, not the destination, that matters. So we support you intentionally and strategically with the growth you are moving towards right now, as well as making sure that this season is supporting the long-term vision of your business. I'm so excited to work with those of you called to this, and all you need to do is head to leticiaringe.com/She's World Class. You'll find all of the details there as well as what the price is, and then all you need to do is book in an application call with me so that you and I can meet. We can discuss what's happening within your business or your work, and then we can talk about exactly how World Class will support you in 2025. And then from there, you can go away, feel into everything that you've learned through that call, and then you can decide whether you'd like to join us if you're offered a place in the program. This is for you, no matter what phase of your business journey you're in right now. What is more important is that you take your business, your life, your craft seriously, and you want to show up in the best capacity you can in a way that truly allows you to thrive and supports you as a woman. That's who we want in this program, and I'm super, super excited to meet you on that call. All right, now let's dive into growth and transformation secrets for women in business. Okay, so if you're growing your business, or you're growing in another area of your life, or you're supporting clients through any kind of growth, you are in a transformational process. This is because something needs to change in order for you to grow. Something is going to be new and different from where you are right now. There has to be some kind of transformation. So within any kind of growth, there is always transformation. And within transformation, we're talking about a process where you are changing. Because of that change, the process will be uncomfortable and hard. It's going to be harder than not changing. Although, for most of us, what ends up happening over time, if we resist the growth and the changes we're being called to, is that eventually our dissatisfaction in relation to where we are right now and our inability to change becomes so significant, so loud, so unbearable, that eventually not changing becomes more uncomfortable than changing. But what so many of us do is we wait to get to that stage. So we, instead of just leaning in to the growth and transformation we're being called to and approaching the discomfort and the hardness of that journey, we then stay where we are, we resist the change and discomfort, get to a place where it's so unbearable that we're forced into it, or the universe does something to get us to wake up. And so we're experiencing even more discomfort, even more hardness, and then we go into the uncomfortable and hard growth and transformation process. Now, when we do this, we just make it even harder. And then even if you don't resist the growth and transformation and you do lean into it, a lot of us still make it even harder. We add more suffering on top of what is already an uncomfortable and hard journey. We fight ourselves throughout the journey. We don't set ourselves up for success. We don't support the three systems within us in the way they need to be supported. So we make the whole process so much harder. Okay, so that's the first point. I want you to understand that whenever we're growing, we are in a transformational process. And because of that, there will be discomfort and it will feel hard. The problem is we make that process more uncomfortable and even harder when we resist growth and transformation and when we don't learn what we need through a growth and transformation process to work with the process, and instead we're fighting ourselves and the process along the way. We don't want to do that. This is what makes growth and transformation unsustainable. This is what has us unconsciously and consciously avoiding the growth and transformation we actually want, i.e., the changes we actually want. And the way we can know whether we're doing this is think of something you really, really want to be different in your life or in your business. Then think about where you are in relation to that thing. Ask yourself, what are the actions that need to be taken in order for me to move towards the change I want to make? And then ask yourself, am I doing those things? And if I am doing those things, what is my self-talk like about those things? Am I telling myself, I wish I didn't need to do this, I'm not good at this, I don't know what I'm doing? If you are, it's likely you're making that process much harder for yourself. In other words, you're adding more suffering on top of the already difficult process. And if you're not taking the actions at all, you know that part of you is unconsciously avoiding your change. Part of you is unconsciously committed to being exactly where you are, even though consciously you want to be somewhere different. Now, this happens all the time in business, whether you want to make more money, whether you want to show up more confidently, whether you want a particular new opportunity, whether you want to create a new offer for your business, whether you want your content to be better, whether you want to show up and be seen in a way that makes you feel proud, whether you want to feel more fulfilled by the work you're doing, whether you want to grow your team, whether you want to be a better leader, whatever the business goal is that you want, you're asking yourself for change. You're asking yourself to grow. Even if your goal is simply to maintain the results you have in some way, just to maintain that balance that you have right now, you're going to need to be doing something different. So really, even when we're in a maintenance season or a very intentional growth season, we are always growing and transforming in some way. Nothing ever stays exactly as it is. We always have to have our pulse on it, and we need to know where we're at in that change and transformation journey. So really, no matter who we are, no matter what we're doing, no matter what we want, we're going to be pushed into growth and transformation. And so it's better that we understand what that transformational journey and process looks like and how we actually work with it as humans to support ourselves through that process. And this, my beautiful friends, is what many of you are missing. The second point I want to make is you need to have a positive reference point for growth and transformation. You must. If you have a negative reference point for growth and transformation, if you see it as something that's a horrible journey that you will only enter into if you're really prepared, you need to make sure you integrate all the other growth in your life for the next few years because you're so burned out by the growth you've had in the past. I'm telling you, you've got a negative reference point for growth and transformation. If when your clients are struggling, when they're not making the changes they want to make, when they're showing up on calls and they're complaining about what they need to do in order to grow and you're getting triggered by that, you're wondering to yourself, is my work actually supporting them? Because secretly you really want to make sure they have no challenges through the growth and transformation journey. You see setbacks as evidence that you're not doing your job correctly. You have a negative reference point with growth and transformation. because growth and transformation is hard and there will be challenges. In fact, if your clients or you are not experiencing challenges, you are not growing. In other words, they aren't progressing. If your clients are rocking up to their calls and they're saying, yeah, everything's going so great. Yep, I've got no problems. Yeah, it's just everything's awesome. Something's going wrong there. And if you are wanting that kind of feedback all of the time, there is a part of you for sure that is avoiding growth and transformation. And it's because you've got a negative reference point for growth and transformation. Now, this can happen because in your own life or in your own business, your relationship with growth and transformation is negative. You are seeing that it costs you something really, really great that you do not want to experience. And so you're resisting growth and transformation. And that's likely because you're not working with the process and you're making it harder than it needs to be. So if you notice yourself avoiding growth and transformation, if you feel like you have to have all your ducks in the most perfect row before you enter into a growth phase in your business, and if you're also getting triggered by the challenges and setbacks you see your clients facing through their growth process towards their goals that you're supporting them with, this is a beautiful indicator to you that there is some cleaning up that needs to be done between you and the topic of growth and transformation. And that's what this episode today is for. It's here to help you understand more about the growth and transformation process so that you can be properly supported through it. And this is why we work with people like me who specialize in growth and transformation while we're working on our businesses, while we're also supporting our lives, because we are always growing and transforming. And it's very difficult when we're so up close to the details of our life and our businesses to see where we're creating this negative reference point and where we're unconsciously avoiding growth and transformation. So that's the second point. You need a positive reference point for growth and transformation in order for business to actually grow, in order for that to be a sustainable journey, and in order to help your clients in the best possible way, rather than unconsciously rejecting their growth and transformation because you really don't see growth and transformation and the challenges and setbacks that happen along the way as positive markers of success. And therefore, your capacity to hold someone through growth and transformation journey is limited. Now, when you approach growth and transformation, when you learn about it, when you understand it, you need to look at it holistically. I approach every subject I support anyone with holistically. And it's because I am simply working with how we operate as humans. So when I talk about holistic, there's two things I'm talking about. First is working with you holistically as a human. Now, to do that, you need to understand that we have three different systems within us. We have a mind, we have a body, and we have our intuition. These three systems all have different languages, which means the way we support those language systems and the way we communicate with them are different. Now, typically, most people, if they're working with these three systems intentionally and consciously at all, are only working with one of the systems and then expecting everything else to line up and wondering why, when they're still experiencing self-sabotage or more suffering than what is needed through the growth and transformation process and it's not feeling sustainable, they're wondering why that's happening because they're working with one of the systems. For instance, maybe you're working on mindset, but you're not working with your body and you're not working with your intuition. You're going to experience more setbacks along the way. If you're just working with the body, but you're not working with the mind or the intuition, same thing. If you're only working with the intuition, for sure, you're still going to experience the mind and the body almost as if they're working against you. So the way that I coach my clients is I coach them using these three systems. I support them to work with their intuition in the language that the intuition uses. I support them to work with their body in the language that the body uses. And I support them to work with their mind in the language that the mind uses. We get all three systems supported and aligned with the growth and transformation process they are on, so that they're working with themselves and not against themselves. So I want you to ask yourself, how do you support your body through growth and transformation? How do you support your mind through growth and transformation? And how do you support your intuition through growth and transformation? Are these three systems supported? If not, this is something you want to start paying attention to and learning about. Now, I go into growth and transformation in a very deep and powerful way in my free online course I've created for you all called World Class. If you haven't taken that online course yet in full, I highly recommend you go and register for that course now. The fourth training in the 5 trainings I give you in that course is all about growth and transformation. And you get tons of coaching prompts to help you go even deeper. You can get access to World Class at leticiaringe.com/world class. Okay, so we want to take a holistic approach. And firstly, that means looking at the 3 systems within ourselves as humans and supporting them in the growth and transformation journey. The other part of taking a holistic approach is to look at your life and your business as a whole. So you want to look at, when I am growing and transforming in my business, how does this impact the rest of my life? So often, we just focus on the business and ignore the impact of what's happening in our business on the rest of our life. And we also do it in the reverse. We might be growing in an area of life and ignore the impact that has on the other areas of our life as well as our business. We don't want to do that. The reason is you have a certain amount of energy and focus. When you're focusing on growing in one area of your life, it is going to have a knock-on effect with the other areas of life. Now, sometimes those effects are positive. They actually enrich the other areas of our life, giving us more energy for other things. And then other times, they also require sacrifices in other areas of your life. And unless we realistically make note of this and we intentionally decide, hey, I'm going to put more of my attention in this particular area of my life or my business so that I can grow it. And I recognize this is going to mean it's going to have these knock-on effects in the other areas of my life and business. And I'm okay with that because it's expected. I understand that this is part of the process. It's a temporary season I'll be in. When you're able to make decisions in this way, when you experience those consequences, it will feel less bad. You won't feel like you're suffering as much because you're already set up and prepared to face those. Now, you also want to look holistically at the business itself. So if you're focused on growing a particular aspect of your business, for instance, maybe you want to focus on deepening your craft. You want to get more confident in actually executing your services as a coach, or you want to get better at delivering the online course you're teaching, or you want to get better at delivering your core retreat that you offer in your business. Or maybe you want to just get better at graphic design. You know that you want to feel more confident in what you're doing. That might be the area of your business that you're focusing on growing. And so instead of expecting at the same time you to start learning new things in the other areas of your business, like new content, going to a new income level, instead of trying to get all of that happening at once, if you focus your attention that you have for growth on one of those areas and you support yourself through that growth process, and you recognize that this means I'm not going to focus on growing to the next income level at the same time. Like that might happen, but it's not going to be something that you necessarily focus on right now. And I'm not going to focus on making lots of different changes in my content right now. And I'm also not going to focus on making a huge amount of changes in other areas of my life right now because this is the thing I want to focus on. This is going to set you up for more success, right? Because you're going to give that limited attention for growth and focus to this one new journey you're taking. And then that's going to allow supporting the other areas of your life to be more sustainable, right? Because you're focusing on maintaining them. In some areas, you may need to pull back a little bit. And so this concept of balance that we're all trying to hold and experience, it actually becomes more attainable because the way you're looking at it is more realistic. Right now, I'm focused on growing this particular thing. That's what I have capacity for. These other things I'm not going to grow right now, and I'm making that decision intentionally. And I understand that across the rest of my life, these will be the consequences. Now I'm set up to support myself through the growth and transformation process. And maybe as I look at all that, I realize, you know what? At the same time, I could grow this other thing in this other area of my life. I've looked at the consequences. I can see how it's going to impact the whole ecosystem. And I feel that I have the capacity to support myself in those two changes in my life. Most of us do not slow down to get to this level of detail. And that's why you make growth and transformation even harder. Now, part of this is because we approach everything like it's urgent, like it should have been done yesterday, instead of approaching our life as a long journey we're on. Let's take it one step at a time, one season at a time. We're building. And this is the thing I'm focused on building and growing into next, knowing that in the next season, I will focus on the next piece of those building blocks. Okay, so take a holistic approach to growth and transformation. This is what sets you up for success. It will help you create a positive reference point and also to remove that extra suffering we add on top of the already uncomfortable and hard growth and transformation journey. The fourth thing I want you to know is that when we approach growth and transformation in a way that supports us as women, this means we're approaching it both in terms of a more feminine leadership lens as well as sustainably. Now, one of the main tools I use in order to do this and I teach is what I call cyclical business. Cyclical business explains the 4 phases of creativity, which are the same 4 hormonal phases our body naturally shifts us through during our menstrual cycling years as women. This means for us as women, we are so attuned with the 4 phases of the creative process because it's the same cycle we're moving through in our bodies through our menstrual cycling years. Now, we also are all moving through this collectively with the 24-hour cycle we're in each day, as well as the lunar cycle we're in roughly every month. And so this natural shifting through the 4 different phases of creativity is the most sustainable and natural way of creating there is. We need to simply look to nature and how it creates in order to understand how anything can be created sustainably. And so when we think about growth and transformation, we also want to be working with this cyclical and sustainable creative process. Because really, when we're talking about change, we're also talking about creativity. We're creating something new. Everything's always in movement and flux in the universe. This is why everything's actually truly always growing and transforming, even when you're simply just trying to balance or maintain your results right now. We're actually always creating. So when we look to this most natural cycle and system that we have within ourselves and our bodies, as well as all around us, this is what sets you up to thrive as a woman and also as a human. We also approach growth and transformation seasonally. So you want to ask yourself, am I in a maintenance season right now where I'm just trying to maintain my results? I want to keep them as they were. Or am I trying to change some of my results? I want them to grow in some sort of way. This is helpful to know because even when you're in a maintenance season, you still need to support yourself in that season to continue maintaining your results. This still requires some sort of growth and transformation. And on the other hand, if you're not in a maintenance season and you're in a growth season, you know that you're going to be changing in even deeper ways. So you can expect that and prepare yourself for that. And in both seasons, you want to support yourself. Now, sometimes we don't want to maintain and we don't want to grow. We actually want to rest. We know we're taking some time for ourselves to sort of let go of what we've been holding. And so you want to understand the impact of that and also how this sets you up for success later on. And you may actually need to be supported in that rest season because guess what? Everything around you is telling you that you shouldn't rest. And so leaning into the edges of rest is actually a transformational process for you. I remember one of my coaches that I worked with on business at one point, this was what we were working on. I was leaning into my edges around rest and relaxation. And this was part of me developing my feminine leadership because it's really a more yin approach to growth and transformation. What I love about yin yoga and how I understand it is that we're not trying to go to our edge in our capacity, and we're not trying to go beyond our edge. The reason for that is that's when we usually lead to injury. Instead, we go just before the edge. So we take our system to just before its capacity, and then we let go. What this does is it allows this more sustainable growth and transformation to happen. We start stretching the edges without breaking them. And so the next time you come back, you realize, actually, I'm able to go even further this time. Whereas if you approach it in the opposite way, where you go to your edge or beyond your edge, usually what happens is you have some natural contraction. Either you're burned out, you don't have the energy, maybe you've got an injury because you've taken it too far, and now you can't even go anywhere near where you went last time. Whereas when you take this yin approach, you're going just before your edge, and then the next time you find that the edge is expanded in some way, and you're now able to go beyond where you went last time, and yet it's still before the edge, but the edge itself has expanded. So this is what I mean about taking a feminine and sustainable approach. Now, part of this sustainable approach is also taking a long-term perspective. You'll hear me talk a lot about focusing on the journey and not the destination. This is something I learned when I was in my final years of high school. The theme in English, which was a subject I was obsessed with, I took 3 subjects in it, all the ones you could. I was at the top of all of my classes. It was honestly my first love in terms of things I've studied. And this concept of it being about the journey and not the destination has been a core concept in my life that I have come back to in almost everything I've learnt about or focused upon. And it's the same for growth and transformation. Whatever you're focused on growing right now is just one step of a much longer process. And if you're too focused on trying to get to whatever that end result is, it'll make it really hard being with the process and where it is right now. You're more likely to quit. Instead, you want to be in the process for the process itself, for the journey, not for where you think the journey is going to take you, because honestly, it's going to take you in lots of other places too. Over on Instagram recently, I've been sharing a lot about my weight loss journey, and I've been sharing about the unexpected gifts and joys I've gotten through my journey of weight loss. I've spoken about the fact that I've not gotten to my goal weight yet, even though it's been like 3 years that I've been on this journey. But I've been focused on the journey itself and what I'm learning about myself through the journey and what I'm attaining. And what I've attained is so much more important through the journey than actually getting to whatever this number is on the scale. And I understand that. And so I'm still in the journey, receiving so many gifts. If I was just focused on the destination, I would have quit, and I'd probably be a lot heavier in terms of my weight because I wouldn't have continued on the journey, and I wouldn't have received all of these unexpected joys and gifts I've gotten because I've been on the journey. And that's really the point. It's not really about the destination. And so I ask you to think about this in terms of your business goals. Like whatever your financial goal is, what if it wasn't about you actually attaining that income goal, but about the gifts and the joys you get as a result of being on that journey towards that goal? What if you celebrated your success based on what you're actually experiencing through the journey, including the challenges and setbacks, rather than on when you finally attain that destination? Because guess what? There'll just always be another destination. So you have to find a way to love the journey now. This is something I've spoken about before on the podcast. It's really important and it makes all the difference. Okay, so that's my fourth point, all about approaching growth and transformation sustainably. Now, the fifth and final point is to be strategic. So the first thing I want you to understand is that transformation is a process. I have created a process for you all to understand what that journey actually looks like. I call it conscious transformation, and there are 4 phases. I've done 2 episodes in the past outlining these phases. I'll link them to the show notes of this episode. As a very quick summary, we have 4 different phases we move through when we're moving through a transformational process. Now, so many of you are not being effective in your transformation because you're skipping some of these phases. And yes, they should be done in the order that I'm going to share right now. The first phase is all about awareness. This is where you truly have to accept where you are right now in the transformation process. You need to understand where you are in relation to where you want to be, and you have to bring yourself to a place of acceptance. Otherwise, what happens is you fight yourself through the journey. If you're judging yourself for where you are right now, for sure, you're going to set yourself up for failure when it comes to the change you want to make. The second phase is all about clarity. Once you actually accept where you are and you stop fighting yourself, and you also become aware of things like your protective patterns, which are what are blocking you from actually creating your core desires in your business as well as across your life. I've spoken about this in relation to relationships before. Once you stop doing that because you've become aware of how you're stepping in your own way, you then actually move naturally into the second phase, which is all about getting clear on where you want to go. Now, so many of you think you have this clarity. You think you know what you want, but actually it's coming from a place where you're rejecting yourself, where you're rejecting where you are, where you see it as bad, and where your protective patterns and limiting beliefs are actually running the show. So you think you want things because you think probably they'll make you a better person in some way, or get more respect from people, or validate you in some way. And then when you move from that place, you're moving yourself towards a North Star that actually is based on something you think you want that more deeply is not actually what you want. And so you go through this transformation process only to discover that the thing you thought you wanted wasn't actually what you wanted. And in fact, you've just been kind of beating yourself up through the whole process. And it's just supporting your limiting beliefs that you're worthless and not enough and blah, 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 all the things that so many of us move from. Instead, when you approach transformation consciously, you're going to spend a lot of time in that first phase. And then when you move into the second phase, naturally, organically, you will have clarity on what you actually want from a deeper place, from a place that's not coming from wound, not coming from lack, not coming from protective patterns. And that's what I support my clients to do. The third phase is all about realignment. This is the messy middle. It's the part of the process where you start changing your actual actions. And so it can feel really hard because there is actual change involved. But when you know how to support yourself through that phase, when you know that setbacks and challenges and discomfort is actually signs and markers of progress, you're more likely to stay in it. And over time, naturally, you move into the fourth phase, which is all about embodiment. This is where those habits and your identity becomes so ingrained in you that now this is your new normal, and now you've transformed. But so many of us rush the process. We never actually get to the embodiment phase. Instead, we're actually trying to build on top of a partially completed transformation process, and then we don't understand why it all breaks down. This is because you're not being strategic and moving through the full process intentionally. And that's something I teach and I support my clients to do. And it's really important for you to know. And I recommend you educate yourself. You come and work with me. We get really clear on what that is and you live it, you embody it so then you can apply it to all of your growth and transformation journeys that you're on throughout the rest of your life and business. And if you work in coaching and personal development and you hold space for people through a growth or transformation journey, so that you can be holding them through that journey in the most effective way too. Now, the other piece about being strategic is you do need a strategy. You also need to be intentional. You need to know what you're growing, and you want to make sure that what you're doing, you're only changing one thing at a time so that you can measure what is actually working. Now, when we're in a rush, we don't do this. We change so many things all at once, and often we don't even have a strategy, and so we don't know what is actually working. You might think it's all the things you're doing that is contributing to whatever growth it is you're wanting, when actually it's just one or two pieces of that, and you could actually get rid of all the other things you're doing. But you won't know that if you don't have a strategy, if you're not intentional, and if you're not changing just one thing at a time. So when it comes to business, I'm a big proponent of having a strategy. I support my clients to get clear on exactly what they're doing. Just last week, I had a new client I was working with. We're going through her strategy, and she left saying she can't believe how much more clear she is when she's been trying to move forward for so long, but she just didn't have all these decisions made. And it's just because you're so up close to the details, it can be really hard to make all those decisions. But bring someone in like me that's going to give you a system to make those decisions and help you make them so that you're really clear. Now you can fly. Now you can move forward and actually start measuring the journey and getting clear about what's working for you. So these are the 5 secrets I want you to know about growth and transformation. Like I said before, I go even deeper into this topic in World Class, my free training, which you can access at leticiaringe.com/world class. And I also have linked 2 episodes to the show notes of this episode that you can dive into all about conscious transformation. I'm talking about that subject more from a relationship point of view, but you'll be able to use those analogies to apply it to business. And finally, I'm going to leave you with some coaching prompts that you should answer right now to assess what you need to focus your attention on to improve your relationship with growth and transformation. The first question is, how do I add more suffering to the growth and transformation journey? The second question is, do I have a positive reference point for growth and transformation? Why? 3, how do I react to my clients when they deal with challenges? 4, how does growth in one area of business or life impact the other areas of my life or business? 5, how am I supporting my mind versus my body versus my intuition through growth? And 6, what season of growth am I in right now and what am I testing? Now, if you'd love support as you grow in your business, please join us in World Class. You can find all the details at leticiaringe.com/she's world class. This is my hybrid one-to-one business coaching and mastermind program for women in business and women who work in the coaching and personal development industry. You do not need to have a business in coaching and personal development. You can work in another industry. We help you with business and leadership, as well as making sure you're living the best life you could live and you're supporting yourself to thrive in the best possible way in terms of your business, your leadership, and your life as a whole. All right, my beautiful friends, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I'll see you in the next episode. Goodbye. Thank you for listening to the Create a Life That Is Beautiful podcast, your go-to resource for personal development and coaching. To deepen your learning and practice, make sure you're subscribed to receive our community newsletter. Subscribe at leticiaringe.com/newsletter. And if you haven't yet left a 5-star review for the podcast, we ask that you please do that now so that this podcast can reach other listeners who also want to join us in creating a life that is beautiful.